And another one is, second is implementation of night vision and artificial neural network. Also, it's the same thing. You can implement both algorithm with your own programming. So not based on the existing library. So using the library is just a one-line code. Okay. So then you can both the exercise lab. You can download the data set by yourself from the. There are several websites that I gave you. So you can download at least the 3 data set, then test it, then compare the result like that. Okay, you can get the more information about the programming assignment from the Canvas. Also, I'm going to explain after I cover each algorithm before 1 or 2 weeks before the due. I'm going to explain more detail what you guys need to do. Okay. This is a programming assignment. Then the third one, third one is the project. There are 2 main projects. Both of them are not individual, group project. I have 25 students here, so I'm thinking the 2 or 3 so per group. So I think that basically the group by 3, but a couple of teams may have the 2. Okay, so you guys can decide your project mate using the Canvas. So after this class, even now, you can go to the before and the project. If you have your best friend or the girlfriend or whoever, so you can assign yourself. Is it possible to assign the project by yourself? Yeah, they can add by themselves. So why don't you do the right now? If you cannot decide your project member by next week, the classroom I'm going to forcefully assign. Okay. So we are going to have the 9 project team. Excuse me. I'm going to add 1 more. So then it's a group by 2 or 3. Okay. So first project is all of the documents are available on Canvas. You don't have to write down or anything. So first project. So data analytics, data science project actually. Data science project using the data mining technique from the cable. So basically you are going to, anyone who never heard about the cable? I think that right now the cable, there are some of them. So cable is the website where you can upload any data science, data mining project. Then it's kind of competition. Some of them are for fun, some of them are sponsored, which means if you get the best result, best performance, you can get the award or prize like that. So there are a bunch of the available. Some of them are closed but still available to download the data set and the problem, and the others are still active. So if you are confident, you can participate in that project. So you guys need to use the programming interface to submit the result following their requirement. But in this classroom project, we are not going to use the Kaggle project itself. Instead, you are going to select the interesting project. Even the closed or the active, it doesn't matter. Then download the data set, then implement it by yourself. Then you can follow the project description like that. So first step is the form a group and the brainstorming what the project is good for your first the data science project. Then the second phase, based on the requirement, you are going to propose your approach and how to collect the data, how to pre-process, and what kind of the data mining technique you are going to apply. Even we cannot wait until we cover all the data mining technique algorithm. Instead, so even before we start to learn what is the classification, what is the clustering, what is the neural network, what is the deep learning, before we start to learn, you guys select the algorithm. by researching. Okay, even though you don't clearly understand, you can see, take a look at that this is look just nice, then you can pick up, then later you can change it. Okay, good. So we cannot wait. So if we wait until we cover, understand everything, the semester will be gone. So that's the reason that you need to propose, but at that time you need to research on what kind of the approach algorithm will be possible to solve your problem. Then finally you are going to implement. You don't have to follow the Kaggle requirement because you can just borrow the project idea only. Okay, but in case you are going to participate in the Kaggle project, definitely I will give the extra point. So regardless of the ranking. Okay, so if you decide to use the Kaggle project and participate in, then definitely I will give the extra point. But it's not required. You can select the past, the close project, and the select, and then the implement and present. So this semester around, I cannot remember the exact date, but at UB hosts the AAC regional conference. Anyone who participated in the previous AAC regional conference? I think the last one was the Niagara, yes, Niagara Falls, and so on. So this year, the UB hosted the regional competition. So if you believe the implementation and results are good enough to try the AAC conference, you should little bit speed up and submit the paper or poster. Okay, then definitely I will give the extra point. Okay, it's up to you. It's not required, but if you wanna participate, submit the poster and paper, so definitely I will give the extra point. I will share the more details, the information about the AAC conference, but please try. That's definitely help your future. Whether one you are interested in the research or the finding a job, so definitely it will be helpful. Okay. So final will be the presentation with the poster and writing up and the oral presentation. So if you already took my course before, like the big data or NoSQL database, it's pretty much similar the workshop. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. But if you are interested in the AAC conference, so I think that you should do the in advance. But it's a team project, so if all your team members agree to try, then you guys can get the extra point. Okay. This is the first project. So the phase one is due on the February 14th. So by next week, you guys decide the project team for both this one and another one. So I don't want to mix the project group. You guys can continue for the project, another project. Okay. So by the February 14th, so please, this is numbers by February 1st. Next Wednesday is not the February 1st. So 29, okay? By 29, okay? So please assign yourself and form a group by the January 28th. Then January 29, I'm going to firstly assign your project group for those who do not form a team. Okay? Any question regarding to the first project? So first project basically is first brainstorming. I'm interested in the biological database or the traffic or the social media data, something like that. Then find a similar project from the Kaggle, because it takes a time to set up your entire project or requirement. Instead, once you decide your interest area, then find a similar project from the Kaggle. Then borrow the project requirement. Then also they provide a data set. So you can save time. So I don't want to waste all your time because we have another project. Instead, you are going to the implement, the participate in the existing project. Okay, but you don't have to submit your result to the Kaggle. Instead, you can borrow the project idea, then propose and the research on the approach and so on. Then you can implement. Then for the last step, you can present. So that is the first project. Main idea of the first project is kind of data analytics or the data science project. Okay? Then second project, I'd like to continue I did the last year the same project, but it was the first time, so this time I'm going to continue the autonomous vehicle, autonomous car project using the data mining technique, specifically the deep learning, the CNN, convolutional neural network. So last year, I spent half of the semester to receive and set up this car, but this time, luckily, I have the 9 set of the car. So I'm going to use this toy car. So it's $100 from Amazon, okay? But you don't have to buy. I already purchased one set of the material for each team. So it's a smart video car kit, whatever. So there are a lot of the similar toy in the market. This one is one of the cheap and reliable and customizable. So we can handle the changes, the design and so on. So this is actually it's a very simple architecture. So first it's based on the Raspberry Pi. So also all the material I tested with the Raspberry Pi 4. So basically a computer system, you are not going to use your laptop, instead you are going to use the Raspberry Pi. So if you are not familiar with the command line interface, it's a good time to start, okay? Because even though it provides the K-desktop and the graphical user interface, the interface, but you should be familiar with the command line interface. In other words, the shell programming. At least the bash shell or K shell, corn shell, C shell, one of the shell you should be familiar with. So it's a good time to start. I think that it takes 1 or 2 days to be familiar with such a shell programming and shell environment, because anyone who are not in computer science or engineering in this room, which means you know the computer. So I believe that you guys can easily catch up. So please, also if you never use the Linux or the Unix system or the Raspberry Pi use Raspberry or the what else? NOS? Whatever, I forgot the name of that OS. Anyway, it's a Unix-based operating system. If you are not familiar with that, it's also a good time to learn about that. It's worthwhile. Okay, so this one is based on the Raspberry Pi 4. To save the money, I purchased the 1 GB memory. The main difference, how many of you used Raspberry Pi before? How many of you? 1, 2, 3. So it's just a computer. It's the same as the other. So slightly different from the Windows, but it's almost the same as the other Unix system, Ubuntu or CentOS or any other. It's definitely similar. But Raspberry Pi 4 was released last year summer, and then so pretty much you guys use the Raspberry Pi 3. So almost similar, but the better performance. Main difference is it supports the 2 HDMI, and the HDMI port is the mini HDMI. And also it supports the different size of memory. So minimum is 1 GB and the maximum 4 GB. But to save the money, so $10 per gigabyte. So 4 GB is $80. So I don't want to spend a lot of money. So it's 1 GB. But for our testing project purpose, I think that it's okay. I already tested. So it's a Raspberry Pi 4. Then the next one is when you control it has the 2 DC motor to control the DC motor. So you can directly use the GPIO pin, like the Arduino style, or you can use the PWM. Anyone who ever used the PWM? It's basically based on the pulse. Okay. Then every pulse is send the signal at that time. So it's like the controller. So to control it can control the servo, it can control the step motor, it can control the what else? So DC motor also. Servo, DC motor, step motor. So we are going to use the built-in the PWM the module. So that is this one. So based on that you can control the 2 DC motor. So DC motor is the forward and backward. It's just simple. And also there are 3 the step motor is like this one. So one is for steering wheel and the 2 for the pan and tilt. So pan and tilt is not required. So we are not going to use. But if your team decide to use, so it's just a simple 3 the motor. Okay. For this one. So there are more the functionality on this car. So feel free to extend, but this is the minimum requirement. Then what we're gonna do in this semester is we are going to do the 2 actually basically one thing. So that is I already implement the lane detection. So you can follow the lane. So it's not it's not based on the data mining or any machine learning technique. It's just based on the image processing. It's a very simple image processing technique to detect the lane, then follow. If the lane is tilted, then control the steering automatically. So it's automatically follow the lane. The problem is only straight lane. So I tried to couple with the method to the curve, but I didn't have enough time to finalize. So it's up to you if you want to add additional feature for the curve detection and follow the curve. It's not very complicated. Also, I will mention later using the data mining technique or the deep learning or the machine learning technique. There exists. So you can borrow such idea to auto steering for the curve. Okay, but it's not main requirement. But you can keep in mind for additional feature. So this car can do the straight lane detection. So you can follow the lane. Then your job, the main the problem is using the camera, and you can get the 800 by 600. They said the HD quality, but I don't think it's HD quality. It's SD quality. So like that. But anyway, so it has 24 frames per second, the images. Then using the OpenCV computer vision library, you can detect the traffic sign. So when you detect the traffic sign, there are different traffic signs. So you need to classify what is stop sign, what is railroad, what is the speed limit, or the yield, using the convolutional neural network that we are going to learn. You can do the same. You can solve the same problem. You can solve the problem with a different approach, but this time to practice the deep learning that we are going to learn using the convolutional neural network. So you can once detect the stop sign, you need to stop the car, okay, automatically. And like the 15 miles per hour, you need to lower speed, and 55 the high speed. And the yield, if there is anything, so you need to stop. Otherwise, you can keep going like that. So, using the classification algorithm, the deep learning convolutional neural network, you can detect the traffic sign, then apply the proper function that I gave in the default program. Okay, the default program can do the stop and non-stop sign only. So your job is extend for multiple the object, like the yield, railroad, lower speed, high speed, and so on. And plus, this time I'm going to add a traffic signal. So I project the toy traffic signal that can turn on red light. I tested, it works. So you know the Lego or something, the toy is I think the couple of bucks. It's very cheap from the Amazon. Then after 10 seconds it changes to the yellow, then the green, and yellow, the red, like that. So I'm going to test your final grade will be determined by that result. Okay, so traffic sign will be added. So that is the minimum requirement. But you can add a bunch of different things. If you can search the Google and the paper, so a lot of the deep learning technique are applied to the autonomous car and the autonomous vehicle project. So you can add such a thing. Okay? So we cannot do at once. So it will be totally different. If you already know what is a convolutional neural network, so and test with the Keras or TensorFlow before with the data set, then 99% accurate. Even though you apply the same model to this one, it definitely will not work. So real application is different from your research, the implementation. So the main purpose of this is our department offer the similar class like the deep learning class and the other. So this is not we are not going to cover each and every details of the deep learning. Instead, we are going to cover the overall the data mining technique. Then the deep learning is one of the approaches. So I don't think I do not have enough time to teach everything details. So I try to overview and introduce the basic part of the deep learning. Then using that technique, so you are going to apply the real application. Okay, so that is the main purpose. So that is the project 2. The project B, okay, it's the same. The project group. Then you are going to start. I'm not going to give this one. Instead, it's the box. So you are going to assemble. You are going to start to assemble. Because if you don't understand how, you cannot apply. Okay, that's also very important. So please ask the student who already took this class before. So you probably struggle. Your model is perfect, but it will not work if you don't understand the car. Okay, so sometimes it's not very reliable. If you do not line up the front wheel, definitely your car will not work. So like that. Okay, so and also another important thing is the position of the camera, something like that. And you will realize why it's important later when you test it. So to do that, you should be familiar with the hardware. So you are going to start with assembling. So after you formatting, I'm going to hand out the car and the air. Oh, one more thing. This semester, I'm going to add one more functionality. Anyone who ever seen this? No. This is called the accelerator from the Google. It's called the Google Cora. So Google Cora is have you ever heard about the edge computing? Edge computer. So to run the data mining or the machine learning or deep learning algorithm, so we will see the history of the AI later. So data mining and the AI later. But there was a kind of AI winter, which means nobody used the AI. One of the reason was the hardware. Hardware, so it needs a huge computation, but the hardware specification cannot follow that complexity of the algorithm. So still, it is the same problem here. So we need the TPU or the GPU, or we need to buy the high-end computing, but sometimes we cannot afford. So you can just simulate and so on. This one will be in charge. This one will be used for the TensorFlow processing. This is called the TPU. So manufactured by the Google. So you can run any train and testing for the TensorFlow library for this one. So it has the processor inside that can process the TensorFlow part to save the computational power of the laptop or computer. So it's connected to the USB this type C. So one of the different thing from the Raspberry Pi 3, Raspberry Pi 4 supported 2 slots of the USB-C. USB-C is much faster, so you can use this one, connect this. So for the classification or the machine learning part, so this is one of the requirements to use the Coral, Google Coral TPU. I tested a very basic thing. I'm not sure whether I can provide more information for this. So if I have a time, I can test with GA and will provide. But you guys, I believe that you guys can do. Okay, the Google provide the sample, the code, and then the processing part. You guys need at least one time. You need to use this the accelerator, Google Coral. And NVIDIA has their own edge computer, and nowadays most of the manufacturer, big company, they produce their own edge computing. So it's one of the hot area in the AI and data mining and such a data processing. Okay, so this is for your the experience. The problem is, I forgot to order the enough Google Coral. So we have the 19, but so far I have 8 of this. So I'm going to order the couple of more. So worst case, one team may not have this device. Instead, I have other opportunity to replace it. Okay, so first step, so you are going to assemble this, and then we need to set up the Raspberry Pi that fit to the autonomous car. So what we'll do, okay? Many of you guys are not familiar with the Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi, one of the main difficulty of using the Raspberry Pi is the interface. Okay, so connecting is not the. It's the same as your computer, but it doesn't. As you can see, as you know, there's no the screen. There's no the input device. So best way is you cannot bring the screen, keyboard, mouse every time. So that doesn't make sense, right? The computer is this small, but so instead you are going to use the remote desktop like the VNC. We are going to use the VNC viewer, or if you are familiar with the real command line, you can directly use the SSH. But when I test last semester, the UV night Wi-Fi worked for me, but many of the students complain, so it's not reliable to connect. What, Divya?
They are using our mobile internet.
Right. So many of the team use the mobile hotspot. Okay. So it doesn't use a lot of the data, so, but that is the safe and the best way. So which means this one has the Wi-Fi. So you can connect the hotspot, and from your computer you can connect to the hotspot. Then through that you can connect the Raspberry Pi. So that is the best way. I cannot buy the data plan for you, so it's up to you. Otherwise, you need to use the night Wi-Fi, but which is not reliable. So one other problem is if you so your team like have a meeting in the Starbucks, the harbor area over there. So night Wi-Fi is not available. So at the time, so you guys need to use your own Wi-Fi. That time the data plan, hotspot is best. Okay, then I provide a very basic program that you can see the forward and backward, the speed, and the turn left, turn right, and turn angle. I think that pretty much this is enough to control car. However, if you want to add more, definitely feel free to add. So straight lane detection is the working, but it's not perfect. So always, so you need to improve that. Okay. Then the last step is the competition. So last year we did, but it was not smooth, but it was a reasonably successful competition. So we have the total 9 teams. So each team will the run the car to solve the problem, like the stop sign detection or the intersections, the traffic sign, and or the other object. Okay, so it's like the competition. Then we will select the best team like that. So for example, last year. So this year, last year result. So team 1, so which team? I think the team 4 was the first one, and team 1 is the second one, and this one by point. Then your grade will be decided by the rank. Make sense? So last team will be the fate retake. But anyway, it will be part of the grade. Okay? So if you want to see the last year their implementation, you can go to the GitHub site. So it's still available. So it's my GitHub site. I think you can find the link from here. Yes. So this is the GitHub project. So you can take a look at what you guys need to do. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So that is the second project. So we basically have the two main projects. Both of them are the group project. It can be, I think, this time the simultaneously. Okay. Not the first project, then followed by second project. We will start both of them at almost the same time, and at the end we will finish the second project will be, first time will be tough, but you will get a lot of experience. So application is really different from just the simulation. Okay, so if you already took the data mining or the other big data course or the deep learning course and so on. But most of the time you run the program in your computer with the benchmarking data set and so on. But what if we apply such a technique to the real life application? It's totally different experience. You will learn such a thing from this project. There's the website. So that is the project B. Then the exam. So we are going to have the one time. So there's no final exam because the last 2-3 weeks it will be very busy. So we are going to have the workshop for the project A and the competition for the project B and so on. So we will spend the most of the time such as the presentation and competition and so on. Instead, in the middle of the semester, I'm going to have the one-time exam. Right now it's April 3rd. It depends. Okay, it depends on the progress of the project and the lecture. I will confirm when we are going to have the exam. Okay. But the more important thing is the lecture, project, and project A and B. One more thing. The exercise lab. For your practice, I'm going to offer the several times of the exercise lab. So let me see the. Yes. Okay. So this time we are going to practice some of the data mining technique as well as the deep learning technique using the Python program language with the Keras and TensorFlow. Okay. So first we are going to. Anyone who never used the Python? I think nowadays most of the students study by yourself or taking the course. Okay, so I don't have to worry about the Python program language itself. I'm not going to teach. Okay, so instead if you never use the Python, please catch up by yourself. I believe that you guys can do. And we are going to set up the exercise lab, the environment. Basically, there is a virtual environment and so on. Okay? And we are going to install the required library. So it's OpenCV, TensorFlow, and we are going to use the Keras this time, and also Scikit-learn. So the first part, the chapter 2, is for the basic machine learning and data mining technique. So you read the Scikit-learn, okay? Then the chapter 3 is for the basic deep learning. So read the Keras and the TensorFlow. We are going to practice the convolutional neural network. Then using the Scikit-learn, we can practice more, okay? Then the chapter 5 will be used for the second project. So we are going to do the stop sign, the classification. At this time, we are going to download the data set by yourself. So using the Google JavaScript. So you can use the browser JavaScript. So we can download the images. And we are going to use such a data set. So the reason is that we can use the existing benchmarking data set, but at that time it's already pre-processed, it's clean. Okay, definitely your result will be better. Okay, or the best. But if we collect our own data set and pre-process or the cleanup and the removing the underlighted, then it's painful, but you will learn how much important such a pre-processing part to collect the data. So we are going to collect our own data set. This is the same thing for the second project, the autonomous car project. Okay, so then train and using Keras, so we are going to create a model, then apply that model to our real application, which is the autonomous car. Then the RNN, and I think this class, the data mining class, will cover up to the LSTM. Okay, so RNN and LSTM, and also the RNN can be used for the autonomous car lane detection also. You can find, but we are not going to cover such a part. Instead, just the basic, the RNN, the current neural network, and the long short-term the memory, the deep learning algorithm. Okay. Hopefully, if I have a time, there are a lot of things. If I have a time, I'm going to add the edge computing part, and also definitely if this is the deep learning class or such a thing, so I can add the GAN and reinforcement algorithm, but I don't think so that can be covered by the Professor Mahmoud. So if you are more interested in that specifically the deep learning, you can take the deep learning class. I think that every the semester it will be offered. Also, if I have enough time, so I can teach more details on the image processing, computer vision using the OpenCV, but unfortunately I don't have enough time. So then, however, that is also important part. It's very fun. Please practice more. I'm not going to offer any lab or the practice OpenCV, but you do better have the certain knowledge on the image processing and OpenCV, because we are going to use the OpenCV 2, 3, 4. OpenCV 4. So on our Raspberry Pi. Okay. If you have a time, you don't have to wait the exercise lab. You can just follow the exercise lab, the instruction. So then you can go ahead. Okay, you don't have to wait until we have the lab. Okay. Also, this one is last semester, fourth semester after this class. I updated a lot of the contents, including lecture note and exercise lab. But it's really annoying to ask buying the space on the iCloud. So one day I actually disabled iCloud. Then, surprise, they actually remove all the updated file on my laptop. It's a synchronized. So it's a 5 gig. It's default. So the iCloud tried to, whenever I update the file, it tried to synchronize, but it's not synchronized here. Then once I disconnect the iCloud, they actually synchronize from the iCloud to here. So all updated file were gone. So after this, some of the information may be outdated. So at the time, let me know. I tried my best to restore from my memory. I didn't back up. So some of the part may be error or the outdate, but please let me know if you find any problem. Do not disconnect without backup. They actually synchronize from the iCloud to your local. So then they remove any updated ones. Okay, so that is the exercise log. Any missing part? Attendance check. So if I feel I need to, I will, but not always. But most of the time is I run out of time, so I may not. So it's totally up to you. Okay. So whether or not you attend the lecture, so if you can catch up by yourself, it's totally fine. This is not the undergraduate level class, so it's a graduate level. It's you should be responsible for yourself. If you believe that you are better than me, whether you can catch up by yourself to do the materials, so I totally understand. So you can do, but there's no the excuse. So you need to submit on time any material and the project. So also you need to work with your project group. So please do your best, okay, for better performance. Okay. I'm going to ask the IT department help desk to fix this problem. So we are going to have the 10-minute break, then continue the first the lecture. Okay. Similar as a markup language, but it's very easy. It's not powerful than the HTML, but it's very easy, and you can do the most of it. So using the tag. So it's a group for they actually maintain their documentation on the GitHub. So like from the it's their own portal. Okay. And any question, the required question, and they set up their own software. Oops, not clear. So finally they connect the Raspberry Pi an account, and then they did the lane detection and so on. So finally put together everything. So recognizing the traffic sign. Unfortunately, Markdown language, there's no way to embed the video, instead the link for the YouTube. So you can see the stop sign. So yield is higher. The sign is 20. So it's a tested. Stop. Yield. Speed boost is, I think is if you recognize it's in high speed, so speed up and stuff like that. Then train and everything. This is their own the CNN convolutional neural network model, and then training. And it's the data set. And these are the accuracy result. Pretty much good. The loss is less than 5%. Okay, then this is the final video. I think the volume is not working. This is the car view. So you can actually capture the video from the your Raspberry Pi. Design failed. Because the car is the zigzag sometimes, it's not easy to detect correctly. This is the last competition. It's at the Tech 160. It's a stop. And go. But this time I'm going to add more task like the traffic signal and other object. Okay. So using the Coral, Google Coral, and your own model, you should be able to detect and respond. Because it missed it, so he moved. So I allowed a couple of times the touch, such as the car or the traffic sign, because it's not perfect. Like that. Okay, so please use the GitHub to submit. So you don't have to submit anything to the Canvas except the GitHub link. Okay, then I'm going to check after due date. I'm going to check the GitHub site, the project site, then evaluate. Then the grade will be posted on Canvas like that. So for the project AME, I have the forgot the things. I think if I remember, I will let you know. So pretty much maybe next week and the week after we will have more time. So if I receive all the component and all the team I set up, I'm going to hand out all the material. Oh, one more thing is the Raspberry Pi images. You don't have to, if you can do the last year, the one team did by themselves. So because you are not, many of you guys are not familiar with Raspberry Pi and all the component. So I set up the basic part, like the OpenCV and the login and such a thing. Then the image, I will provide the image. Then you guys can start after that. But if you are familiar with everything, so you can install the Raspberry and the Raspberry any operating system and download and install everything by yourself. Okay, it's up to you. But as a default, I will provide the image that can actually run the very stop and the non-stop sign, the model, convolutional neural network model, and the lane detection. Pretty much, that's it. And also, I think that you may have the power supply, the USB Type-C power supply, okay? Because I have the old style, the USB, the power supply, but it doesn't work with the Raspberry Pi 4. Raspberry Pi 4 use the Type-C, like this shape. So probably you have at least one or two such a power supply USB. So you can use such a thing. And once everything is ready, I will give the battery, rechargeable battery. This is the 18650, the rechargeable battery. It's a LiPo battery. This one is a LiPo battery. So then I have different capacity, the battery. This one is 9008 milliampere, but I think they're pretty much enough. And up to I think the lowest one is 3000 milliampere. So, and after that, you guys can use the battery. What else? I think pretty much that's it. Okay, let's start the first lecture. I'm going to start with this one. Is it better?
Yes.
So nowadays, as you know, everything is AI, right? So artificial intelligence is not only United States, the worldwide, it's kind of a trend. So I watched the news from China. Also Chinese government invests huge money. And also they decide to offer the AI course for elementary, middle school, and high school. So it's a required course. Same thing in Australia, and also same thing in Korea, my hometown Korea. They decide to require AI course from elementary school from 2022, next year after. So which means, so AI is not optional from now on, especially for computer science major. Okay, so because of that, even data mining, the data mining and data analytics, data mining and machine learning, data mining and the AI, it's like a cousin. It's not exactly the same, but they are under the same root. So I actually supposed to change the title of this course for the data mining based on the machine learning. But I was lazy, I didn't. So no way, no other option. So I cannot ignore the artificial intelligence. Pretty much I'm going to cover more and more the AI part in my class. So even though the title is data mining, then the data mining, so as the name implies, mine the data mining. Actually, data mining itself is not the correct grammar, right? So we are going to mine something. So it's mining the data. So we are going to mine. So then, so what? What will we get after mining the data? We want something important thing, like intelligence or knowledge. Okay? Which means if we can get something intelligence part from the data mining, then that is artificial intelligence. So I'm going to start with understanding the AI, then eventually go over the data mining part. I think that will be the more practical for you guys to understand what is AI, what is the data mining, and what is the machine learning. Okay? So Anyone who watched this movie? Anyone who knows this movie? No one? Who is this guy, the main actor? Tom Cruise. The title of this movie is Minority Report, actually filmed 2002 and filmed by the Steve Spielberg. Spielberg filmed this one almost 20 years ago, but surprisingly, a lot of the things happen in this movie. It's a real story nowadays. So, for example, it's a target marketing. So, if you go to the nowadays the department store, shopping mall, they can recognize your face, then they provide something different advertisement. That happen in when you are using Amazon or the online shopping, they know who you are, then they know what you like. They provide the target marketing. Also, the previous one is the robot. So small insect robot is the realistic and also autonomous car. Okay. Then the main theme of this movie, one of the popular this movie is, do you know something interface Tom Cruise move the window? It's a virtual window like this one. So you have seen a lot of similar thing happen in the drama and the movie. Actually, it's a film the first time in the Minority Report. That is real interface nowadays. So you can from the swipe using the touch screen. Nowadays we can use the hologram. Okay. Even in this movie, the Tom Cruise missed her daughter. Her daughter was killed, killed. Then, but he has a hologram, so he can talk to her daughter, his daughter. Okay. And also such a hologram nowadays used for the communication. Microsoft invests a lot of money. Technically it is doable, but marketing and business, they are not actually using a lot. It's a little bit advanced. So Minority Report actually use such a technique. And more importantly, the theme of this movie is do you remember the part of this trailer? The narrator said, can you see or can you prevent the future? So for example, there's a certain like the fortune teller like that. So there are some specialized person who can see the future. Then he said that he's going to kill his friend. Okay. Then if we can capture and in jail him in advance, he will not be killed, right? So that's the idea of this movie. So Minority Report, there is a special person, the 3 person, if they can see the future in this movie, then they inform to the Tom Cruise, then such a cop, they can actually custody to prevent the future time. Then the problem is nowadays we use such a technique in our real life. It will be real. Yes, some of the country actually would like to use such a technique like the prediction of the future crime or future accident. Then how can we do that? So we are not interested in whether that's the economic part or the humanity part, but we are interested in such a technique. So nowadays using AI technique or machine learning technique, we can predict a lot of things, like not only the weather forecast, but also the stock market trading, economy, and the business. So we can predict a lot. So the movie is not the future, it's real. It can say the real story nowadays. So in this class, we'd like to see whether such a future technique is possible or not. So this is a quick summary of the technique introduced in this movie, like the user interface, the moving using the hand, and the customized add the insect bug, and the 3D hologram. Retina scan is really everywhere nowadays, and the mind reader. So we are interested in such a mind reader to predict the future, whether that is doable, that can be possible in this movie. Before we start the AI, so we need to see something history of the AI and such a machine learning and the data mining. So when was the first industrial revolution? Anyone? The first industrial revolution? Where? Where and when? First industrial revolution. England. Please remind your sociology which class? It's a long time. So England, so 18th century, 17 something, 50 something. Yes, sir. 1784. So something like that. So it's the 18th century in England. So the first industrial revolution happened. What is the first industrial revolution? Before that, what is the industrial revolution? Why it is important? Start the mechanical production. Then, such a mechanical production or mass production. Why that mass production is important? Money. So before the industrial revolution, how can people make the capital? Before industrial revolution. Long time history, Homo sapiens. So from the animal, so we can think about, and so unlike the animal, so we start stand up. It's like a Homo erectus. Okay, but so another branch of the human being is the Homo sapiens. They can think and make the language. Then at that time they try to. What is the most important part when the people survive? So eating, right? We need to eat something, right? So hunt or the fight and get something to eat. So before the early stage of the human history, human being, the Homo sapiens, they hunt and sometimes get the fruit from the tree like that. But because they can think and something intelligent, so it's Homo sapiens, they can actually start make the more food, okay, more capital, like the farm. Okay, they don't move around or to go hunt or to get something to eat. Instead, they can settle down certain area. Okay, then the farming or agriculture they can start. Why? Because they can make the more food. In other words, more money, more capital. So then that is what? It's a civilization. So if you think about the location of the human civilization, one is Nile River, and another Mesopotamia or Yan. So it's nearby the river. Because nearby river, they can have what? Water. Water means fertilize. So really fertilize the soil so they can actually get some more food. Okay? So that is the power of what? The people. So somebody needs the control, the people, which is government. So long time ago, such a government is like a king. Okay? The king control everything. Then at the time to measure the power of such a king, what is the most important? Number of head, the slavery or the farm. So there are people. Okay, because the more people you have, the more the food you can get. Okay, because of that they can sometimes fight each other. Because to capture more slavery, more people, okay, to make more money. Okay, so long time history, people actually our human being, our history is getting the more the money and the more the capital. So that is until the industrial revolution. However, so think about before the industrial revolution for the farming or the agriculture, do you need something understanding the alphabet and language? No, we don't need it. So because of that, education is only for the lower class or the certain high class. We didn't have such a public educational system. But the industrial revolution changed everything. Why? Because as he mentioned, industrial revolution is the main part is the mechanic. Okay, we can use the machine. Okay, so using the machine is a mass production. So we can make the more money than the agriculture. So the people who, when I'm saying the people, it can be government, it can be the king or the whatever. So such a people, they need a person who understands, who can operate such a machine. Okay, so they need something, the education. Because at least the people, my slavery, should be able to read the manual, then operate the machine. So at that time, actually, the start of public education system. So we are beneficiary of such a public education system. It's a very different story. But so first industrial revolution, starting with such a machine, okay, and mechanical devices. So far, even though we have the second industrial revolution, third industrial revolution, and so on, but so far, when I was a student, my father generation, including my parents, so you should have the skill. Okay, that's the way of survive. Okay, that's the way of making the money. So you need to get the skill and so on. So a lot of people actually go to the special school to learn how to use such a machine. Still, we have the mechanical. I don't blame where they look down such a mechanical department or like that. But still, it's important because it's the source of the money. Okay, at least we can get the salary. But recently, when I'm saying recently, is like the several decades before. Okay, like after the second and third, especially after the third, there are a lot of the history is related to our major AI and computer science, but we don't have enough time. But think about the 1940. So we have the first, the computer, ENIAC, and so on. So first, when we are saying the first generation of the computer, which is based on the electronic device, okay? Electric power. Because after the second and third the industrial revolution, the power, electric power is everywhere. So we can use the benefit of such electric power to operate the computer. Then the computer changed a lot. Then, so recently, our data size, if you already took the data, the big data course, we have learned our total size of data is like this one, the exponentially increase. So we have huge, really big size of the data. Then when we little bit process such a data, we can get huge benefit. Like for example, one of the example is the Google Trend. Like right now, it's in China. Did you hear the news? The Wuhan, the pneumonia outbreak. So it's coronavirus. So every the winter, I have visited Wuhan. It's the center of the China. It's 20 million the population. It's a really big city. So UB has a sister university in Wuhan. So every winter I have visited Wuhan. A couple of years before, when I visited Wuhan, so at the time, so actually I got the flu. I thought the flu, but it was pneumonia. So, but it was diagnosed as the pneumonia. So it took a couple of months to fix everything. But this year I didn't visit the Wuhan, but in the same city, the coronavirus is the Wuhan, the pneumonia is the outbreak. So it's really the serious problem in China. But why did I say that this one? But anyway, so then nowadays, so when we have such a huge amount of data, for example, so if such a virus is outbreak. We don't know what is the problem, so people just search the cough or the high fever and from the Google. Then such a number of keywords based on the fever or virus, cough, or such a thing will be increased. Even though we do not have the medical experience or expertise, by counting number of fever, by counting number of the cough, then we can realize something problem in nowadays, right? So that is the simple. It's just counting, but we can actually predict it may be outbreak. If the number of the fever is increased, flu season is coming, like that. So, but that is one of the examples, the power of data analysis. So, can we make the money from such the analysis process? Yes, we can actually sell such a trend. Google sell such the trend. That is a Google trend. So, politicians can use such a trend, and business guys can use such a trend. So, it will be the money. So, actually, the Google use the portion of the Google, the profit is coming from the advertising, the AdSense. So they sell such the processing, simple processing information to the business, then they make the money. I think the 60-70 revenue of the total Google is coming from such an ad. So it's a source of the money. It's just one of the examples. So that means nowadays, so we are saying the first industrial revolution. When we are saying the industrial revolution, means it's a changing of the paradigm. In other words, the source of the money is changing. So source of money is coming from mechanical production, mass production. Then there is a GE and the Ford use the conveyor belt like that. That changes the money of the source. Okay. Then the third industrial revolution, like the electronic device and the appliance, and that changes the source of the money. Nowadays, source of the money moved to the data. Okay, so that is the reason we are studying the data mining and the artificial intelligence, and the people are crazy under such the deep learning and so on. Okay, so I think at least. This is not my opinion. So like the other professor and well-known scholar, they said the next few decades, at least 20, 30 years, will be the governed by the artificial intelligence, AI, or the data, big data. Okay? So this woman is I cannot remember the name. It's the Paris. This woman is technical business. She proposed like the life cycle of the technology. So this is the early stage. This is the end of the technology. Then, in the middle of the life cycle, such a technology actually the break is broken in the middle. That is kind of the new technology is coming. People like it. That everybody try to use and devote the money and life effort to such a technology, but it's too many. So it's a kind of a bubble. So bubble should be gone at this time. Then after that, it's kind of golden age. So it's stable. So we can make the money. So AI is kind of this one. So we got the computer technology from the 1960s, 70s, 80s like that. And then everybody knows at the end of 1990 and the beginning of 21st century, there was a dot-com bubble. Everybody actually invested to do the same thing for the dot-com website and such an IT company. Then it was bubble and it's gone. So that was the breaking part. Then after that, the 2010 and 20 is like the golden age. So it will be drive up. So it's not optional to use such a technology, AI and big data and so on. Is especially for computer science guy. it's it's an opportunity for you guys. Okay, really a lot of opportunity. Okay? So if you are not in the computer science, we don't have to talk about this. But so because your major is computer and computer science or the computer engineering, no matter what we are doing, the deep learning or Python, whatever, it's based on the computer, right? So which means you should be familiar and expertise on computer itself. Then we can do the processing or analytics and the programming and so on. What is a computer? Computer. Anyone? I'm asking almost the same question to each and every of my class. So what is a computer? At least you should have your own idea because you major in computer. So in my case, I don't think that I may not have another job except the computer science related one. So no other way. Pretty much the same thing for you guys. After graduation, 90% of you guys will be around the computer and computer science area, right? Then which means you'd better know what is a computer, and you can explain to your customer and what even the wife or husband or the daughter and son, right? So what is a computer? Yes.
I guess anything that has an ability to process information.
Yeah. Processing and information. So he mentioned about the two important parts. First, information. Sometimes there are slightly different the definition or the concept, information and data. But in this class, we can interchangeably use information and data. We have the information, we have data. But that data is not just the declaration, it should be processed. Then the two process. So what is the processing? What is the processing? Calculate. Calculation is one of the processing. We can add the number because our data, he mentioned about the data, data is based on what? Actually, if you open and again, finally you can see the 0 or 1. Actually, our data is based on the 0 or 1. Why? So when we are saying the computer, so a long time ago, even without the electric power, we have a computer. Like the Leibniz had invent the computer to compute the number, okay, add, delete, and add, subtract, the multiply, the division, like that, using here. So you can turn the number and rotate, and you can calculate something. It's a computer. It's a machine to compute and help the human being. But when we are saying that such a computer, everybody know. So this is not a computer. This kind of thing is a computer, which means electricity. So we are going to, after the first generation, actually the second and third industrial revolution, so we are going to use electric power. So electricity, what is the benefit of using the electricity? Faster. Electric is fast and not sure. Power. Convenient. Actually, electricity is a convenient way to represent low and high. If what is the power? So it's a plus, minus. Actually, current is moving minus to plus. Because of that current, we have power, electric power. Okay, that the current. If the current is the stream very powerfully, okay, it's kind of power, that is high current. And if you block that current, it's a 0. Using what? Switch. We can use the switch. So that 0 or 1. It's a convenient way to represent 0 or 1, like the switch. And if we combine such a plus minus switch all together, that is transistor. So transistor has the 3 legs, okay? Then one or several transistors is not good enough. Combine all together is an integrated circuit IC. Even the several IC, huge amount of IC, very, very light, VLSI, and white, and the semiconductor, the such a thing, more and more. So that is the computer. So which means computer is based on what? Electricity that represents 0 or 1. So we can use a binary. Then how can we represent, how can we display the fancy nice image using the such a 0 or 1 current? Then from that time you should know data structure. Okay? So data structure is the most important part. So we have only 0 or 1 to represent using the electricity, but combination of the 0 or 1 is a huge difference. We can represent the video, we can represent the image, we can calculate the very complicated. However, no matter what you are doing using the computer, that is based on the 0 or 1. So sometimes it's doable. So AI is not the, it's not a God. Okay? It can solve the certain problem very well, but AI sometimes it doesn't work for the something very simple problem. Okay? Why? Because it's based on the 0, 1. So if you understand the, I think there's something. So 0 or 1, using the data structure, then we can actually represent the solve a lot of problems. Not everything, but so it's also very important to understand the data structure. So when you see the certain problem, then you may get the idea whether I can solve this problem using computer or not, or how much you did. So that is kind of sense of digital and sense of the computer. So that is kind of computer. Then, so computer, as you know, it has the processor processing data. So who processes such a data? Processor. It's a CPU. Okay, CPU is the main chip. It's like the Intel chip or Intel and the AMD so on. It has a number of instructions. Okay, you cannot do all the processing. Only limited number of commands, which are called as instruction. How many instructions? Even the AMD Intel, such a general chip, has the less than 150 and 200. So this one has also the chip. It has the 4-bit process, which means 3, 8, such the instruction. Okay, just when I push this button and they have calculate the plus, minus, and so on, like that. That is the CPU. But the CPU process the data, but the data is in the register. But register is not big enough, so we need the main storage. That is the RAM. And even RAM is not big enough, so we keep all such a data in the hard disk drive as a file system. File system also the data structure. These are the main components of the computer. So no matter what types of computing, what processing you are doing, so your computer has the 3 parts. And then do you think what is the main target, main enemy, main problem when you are using computer? What is the main thing? You need to keep in mind whenever you are doing programming, you are doing the algorithm or anything, it's a performance. Performance is our main target, always. Okay? Why? The main reason why we are using, or why we invent the computer is we need to speed up. When you calculate the number, when you calculate or process the certain information, it should be fast. Okay? So all these components and the architecture started from what? Performance. efficiency, to speed up. For example, this is called von Neumann, the computing architecture. Von Neumann architecture is based on the what? The memory. Okay. So we have. I'm going to skip the other part. This is the part of computing organization or the computer architecture you learn. Okay. Then nowadays I'm interested in the history of computer. So my major was math. One of my favorite math subject was the history of mathematics. It's really fun to see the why the mathematician and the Leibniz fight with the other Newton when they develop the calculus like that. So it's very fun and interesting. Then I can understand more in depth for the mathematics. Computer is the same thing. When we see the computer skill or the device, so if we understand the history, background of the such a thing, it's much easier and it's fun. And also, any subject, think about the major at the UB, any subject they offer the history of something, history of the science, history of something. But computer is not, because computer is relatively young, the subject. Think about the English and the math, biology. Their history is 100, almost 1,000, like that. But computer is 60, 70 years, it's less than 100 years old. So we do not have the history yet, but I think there is a time to think about the history of computer. So somebody actually exaggerate the history of computer to the 5,000 years ago. So this is the abacus, it's the oldest computer, like that. But nowadays we have this kind of computer. So everything is computer. So surprisingly, do you have the router at your home or room? So if you have the router, okay, so pretty much you are using if you are not in the UB, so if you say your own, if you rent a room or if you buy a room, the house, so you probably buy the ISP, Internet Service Provider, then they give the router, right? So when you access the router, check how many devices are connected. Do you think how many? 5. When I check the home router, it's 40 something device. Really. So all TV is connected, and I have Chrome, the 3 Chromecast, and Alexa, and laptop. I have my wife, my son, and my daughter when she visits. So at least the laptop, the IP address, and I'm testing the Raspberry Pi, several, so 5, 6 Raspberry Pi connected, and also device, it's like the ProPip was such a pip. It's really 40 something the device. I can find the unknown device also. I don't know what that is. So really a lot. It's still called IoT. And everything is connected, which means it's a Wi-Fi. So, but each device also, we regard such a small device as a computer. So computer is everywhere. So we can check such a computer, but the first generation is based on the vacuum tube. If you have a chance to visit the Philadelphia, so you the UPenn. So UPenn has kind of such a sign. The UPenn is the first. They invented the first computer, which is ENIAC, like that. Then finally, we have such a computer. Then, what is a computer science? Then narrow down. We start from the computer. What is a computer science? How many of you major in computer science? And the other are computer engineering. What is the main difference?
Software, hardware.
Software, hardware. That's what I explained when the parents asked me during the open house. That's the easiest way. So that's true. Computer engineering is kind of in between engineering and the computer, but still close to computer science. But in United States, so by the number of the department who offer computer science and computer engineering, which one is more? Which one is bigger? Computer science is 10 times bigger than computer engineering. Computer engineering is really minor because a lot of part in computer engineering is just duplicate with the electrical engineering. So, computer science. What is a computer science? This is from Wiki. So it's not my definition. You can see this definition. The study of a process, as he mentioned, is a processing. What? Data. You already know there's such a definition. What is a computer science? Computer science is a subject that focuses on the processing the data, which means throughout your life, as long as you are in the computer science IT field, you need to keep in mind the two things: the data and process. Process is the programming. But a lot of people focus on only this part. But the data itself is also important. Especially nowadays when we have the huge amount of data, big data. So what is the main problem of the big data? It takes a longer time to process. Right? At that time we need to something architecture, new paradigm, new algorithm, so on. So anyway, the processing such as data. In the form of what? Program means process. It will be eventually processed. Look, if you think about the CPU, memory, the file system, the program is in the file system. When you click, when you touch, when you run the program, this program will be loaded into the memory, which is called the process. Then the process can process such a data. At that time, this process will be done by CPU. Then you can understand the overview. So when you are doing the computer science, always, no matter what type of the subject you are doing, you can do the same thing. This class is the same thing. You need to understand first the data that you are going to process. So you collect the data from the cable, then the pre-process, and define the problem. Sometimes such a problem will be given by the business or something analyst. But this time you can define your problem by yourself, then the process by the program. AI is the same thing, okay? But different algorithm we are going to apply. Okay, that is a computer science. So in computer science, you cannot see the details. Let me read what kind of area in computer science. This is a theoretical computer science. Let me read. So autonomous theory and computability theory, computational complexity theory, the cryptography, and quantum computing. So that's the kind of I think that will be important in quantum computing. So far that I explained that we are going to learn, that you have learned, that you are going to learn in this, the sub area is based on binary. But if we have the quantum computing, it will be totally different story. Good news, I don't think your generation will use quantum computing in your life. Okay, probably our next generation, maybe. Still some of the researcher, quantum computing is fake, they say. So, but I think the quantum computing will be, but I don't know when, but at least in our generation, may not be. So you don't have to worry about too much. But it will be, if that is quickly coming to our real life, our subject, that is your opportunity. We need a new data structure. We need a new programming. We need a new interface. Everything should be new. Then that time you can work for that. Okay, the algorithm, data structure, and the computational, the geometry, and so on. Compiler, programming. And also apply the computer science area, computer vision, image processing, and the pattern recognition, data mining, the robotics. This part in this class we are going to focus on. Okay. So whenever I discuss about the computer science, I'd like to compare the computer science with the human being. Because computer science area to help our life, the human, the being. Which means a lot of area of computer science, the mimic, what we are doing, what the Homo sapiens is doing. For example, what is the most important sense? How many senses do we have? 5 senses? 6? 6 senses is the title of the movie. So 5 senses, we are saying the 5 senses. Among these 5, which one is most important? Most information we get using which sense? It's a vision. So actually vision is one of the most important sense to get the information. Okay? So we can hear, and also we can feel, but that's much slower than the vision, human eye. So because of that, computer has computer vision area and the camera. Because of that, one of the first application used in the AI deep learning especially is related to the vision processing. There's another way, because their data structure is very similar as our array. So that's the computer mimic the computer vision in the computer system mimic the human, the vision and image processing. And also human being, Homo sapiens. So somebody says it's connected. It's a group, society. The people cannot live without such a society, which means it should be connected. So it's a network. And the kinematic operation is the robotics. Then especially the humanoid robot is the kind of a dream to build in the robotics. And also to communicate with other, we have the natural languages, similarly program language. The computer has a program language and so on. But there is one missing part so far. That is the intelligent part. So that is artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is actually started from the movie like the Minority Report. So I think the Minority Report is worthwhile to watch. So if you can pay the couple of bucks, you can watch from the Amazon or the Google Play Store, or you can download using the torrent if you can. And also not only the Minority Report, many like the Star Wars. Recently I watched the Star Wars. Hopefully it's the really last episode. Anyone who watched the last episode, Star Wars? Not yet. Do you think it's the really last episode? I'm a little bit suspicious. They always continue. Or the iRobot, Terminator, and so on. So, what is AI? So we start from the computer and computer science and then the AI. So what is AI? The AI build the intelligent part, because so far the computer programming, try to help the human being, our intelligence, try to help our brain, because the practical part is slow to help, but they cannot solve the problem by themselves. In other words, they cannot recognize what is red, what is the blue, and what is a cat, and such an intelligent part. So computer try to address such a problem using machine learning. So people think about how people can learn, or how can we be trained. So think about the kindergarten or toddler. Your mom or your dad said that this is a red, this is the black. So this is a apple, so you can eat. But this is not an apple, you cannot eat. And this is a dirty, you cannot eat. But this is okay, but you need to peel out. So your mom keeps saying, but sometimes you don't know, so you eat. Supposed not to be. Then your mom and dad spank you, or the penalty, or something. So then you realize I should not eat this one. But this one is okay. So practice, practice, and practice. Train repeatedly until you understand. Then finally, in our brain, we have a concept of this red round thing is apple, so I can eat. But this one is not. This is dirt. This is a concept. It's garbage. Then, when I see the first time, this is the apple, but I never seen this. But I know this is an apple because I have been trained, I have concept, I have intelligence in my brain. So then I can eat. So that is the process of learning. So can we apply such a processing to the computer? Then, in other words, can we make the machine learn something? That is machine learning. Okay. Then idea is simple. It's if something happen again and again and again, that's true, right? Without such a experience, we don't know. I never seen this one whether this is something to eat. So if I do not have any experience, I cannot do anything. But since we have been trained repeatedly, then such a frequency will be our intelligence somewhere in our brain, especially in the neuroscience with the help of neuroscience. When we get the information through the five senses, is for example the vision. So human eye can see this is eyeball. So this is a tree, okay, and there is a green, and there is a brown, and this is a what? Sun. So sun, then the light, right? Then this green part reflect. So what is the light? It is the spectrum of the wave. So red, orange, violet, right? Red to violet. Not only this one, and ultraviolet, ultra red, and so on. But this is a visible part. So then, when the light touch the color, only this color spectrum will be reflected. Then the human eye actually receive this green spectrum. Then there are sense behind inside the eyeball, and this one is like the opposite way. Then there is I forgot the name of this. So if you know the details, check the Wikipedia and the Google. But it sends all this the signal to here. Then send all together to the brain. And the brain so there are a lot of such a connected the part which is called this one is called the neuron inside. Okay? Then some of them, this is not the simple sometimes. Such a neuron is millions of neurons is equal. So this information go through, it's like as a signal go through, then finally if you receive such a signal, then always go to here because it's trained. Okay? So then but if the object goes to here, it's nothing, but if this one, we recognize this is a tree, like that. In your brain, it's like that, not detailed. So still it's the black box, but the people, especially neuroscience, the scientists, they try to know how we can keep such information as a knowledge and how much information we need to establish the concept like that. But this is the overall idea. So people in computer scientists would like to use such a technique. So it will be eventually the neural network. We don't know inside of how, but the idea is if repeated information, same information frequently happen, then that is a tree. This one is not tree. Stop sign, not stop sign, and this one. Input is the something value, like the images, then output is the kind of class. Then the train again and again until we got a certain level of accuracy. Like the 90%, as if your mom is okay. So you understand what is the apple, what is not eating, and so on. Like this. It's based on training, and when we have the new, the tree, so we understand this is tree. It's not tree, it's not tree. It's a testing. So based on the training and testing, so we can build such an intelligence, which is called machine learning. Okay? So machine learning is the system, algorithm, processing to capture the frequently happening as a knowledge. And if we, that's the processing part, machine learning is the processing part, then AI is kind of an entire system, including such the training and the machine learning training part, but also language system architecture overall thing to build the intelligence. So that is the AI. Then, so we know what is the AI and machine learning, but what about the data mining? So data mining is when we are talking about the computer science, it processes data. So this data, when we have a really large amount, sometimes it doesn't, we don't need such a large amount of data. So when we have data, we try to find. So data form is like the Lee is the professor. So computer science, such an information, so data. And another data. So when we evaluated a lot of professor in computer science, so the professor is a computer science, for example. So it's a relative, so this will be the kind of rule or the knowledge. So data mining focus on such a kind of such a rule or something hidden. In the data itself is 0 or 1, but if we process something, we can find something rule or the inference. Eventually, it will predict. So this one, like the decision and prediction, is a very simple, similar nowadays. So when I offer the data mining course, we focus on this part, to find the rule or relation. But once AI and machine learning is popular, so this one is also cover the main problem of the data mining. So discovering knowledge, getting the knowledge. So if we can do this is a tree, this is not tree, this is something to it, that is kind of knowledge, right? That is intelligence. So it's not completely different, it's actually mixed. So that is the reason I adapt more and more machine learning and AI technique to serve the data mining problem. That's the reason I introduced. Also, this is the name itself. It's kind of old-fashioned, right? So AI and machine learning is like the newbie. So, but basically they are kind of cousin or sibling level. It's not totally different. So in this class, we try to serve such a eventually prediction or infer the knowledge using AI and machine learning technique. So that is the focus of this class. Okay? So I'm going to skip this. So machine learning itself is more related to close to the processing, how to process it. It's more like the algorithm. There are different approaches. I'm going to explain the next class. this part. Okay. So that's the end of the time. So next class, I'm going to introduce the last part of the introduction of the AI. Then finally, so what we are going to cover for the data mining. Then the main part of the next class will be mathematics. It is true. So to understand the machine learning technique and deep learning, it's very, very closely related to the mathematics. So we are going to two parts, probability and statistics, and second part is linear algebra. So we will discuss about that part. It's, if you already did the calculus in your high school and college, it's not complicated. I'm not going to test even. Okay, just for your reminder, I'm going to introduce the fundamental part of the math to understand the AI, the machine learning layer. Yes?
Are we going to have textbooks in the class?
Oh, textbook. Oh, that's a good question. I have textbook this. You don't have to buy. So I think that it's free to borrow from the bookstore. But if you can do, you can do it. Because it's after this, the author, Dr. Han, was very popular when I studied the data mining, but he was a little bit lazy to adapt the AI technique, including deep learning. So there's no mention about the deep learning, but it mentioned about the conventional approach of the data mining. So to understand the conventional, like the classification problem, and somebody said the opposite of the deep learning is a shallow learning, okay? But still worthwhile. So it's up to you, but you don't have to purchase definitely. So do not buy, but if you can, the free to borrow, you can do that. For the deep learning part, if you already took the deep learning class before and you understand the basic thing, I recommend the deep learning textbook. It's also by Ian, the good fellow. So it's a very well-known textbook, but it's more mathematics. Okay. So, however, most of my class regarding to the machine learning and deep learning will be based on this introduction to deep learning. I didn't order through the bookstore. Okay, but this one is, I think it's published the last year. I used the last year class, but if you, for the beginner, it's easy to understand, and also it's based on the TensorFlow. Okay, so if you wanna know, it's the first time as a beginner, so you can purchase it worthwhile, and also you can find the PDF, I believe. Okay. So the deep learning part, so deep learning and the machine learning part will be based on this, and the other part will be based on this textbook. And this one is for just a reference. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thanks so much. We will see you the next week. Don't forget to